You are strapped into a solid titanium egg, completely blind, plummeting at 30,000 miles an hour straight into a planet that has absolutely no solid surface. There is no ground to land on. If your braking sequence fails, you won't crash into the dirt. You will simply sink into an endless, violently swirling abyss of gas, until the sheer atmospheric pressure crushes your pod into a cube the size of a toaster. This is not a standard orbital strike. This is a combat drop into the atmosphere of Jupiter, and it is widely considered the most psychologically terrifying, physically devastating maneuver ever conceived by human military doctrine. You aren't just fighting the enemy today. You are fighting the largest, most violent gravity well in the solar system. And to even survive the trip down, your own military had to fundamentally alter your biology for the duration of the drop. Before we even talk about the sheer insanity of what is waiting for you at the bottom of this descent, you have to understand the nightmare of the drop itself. Jupiter's gravity is roughly 2.5 times that of Earth. If you are a completely shredded, 200-pound infantryman, the exact second you enter Jupiter's gravitational pull, you instantly weigh 500 pounds. Your heart has to pump 2.5 times harder just to keep the blood flowing to your brain. If you try to lift your arm, it feels like it is cast in solid lead. Now take that staggering baseline gravity and add the brutal, violent deceleration of atmospheric re-entry. When your drop pod hits the thick upper layers of Jupiter's stratosphere, the G-force doesn't just spike. It skyrockets to levels that would instantly shatter a human skeleton and turn your internal organs to liquid. So how does the military drop a fragile human body through that kind of physics-breaking kinetic trauma? They drown you. Right before the pod disconnects from the orbital cruiser, the interior of your claustrophobic titanium egg is flooded with a highly specialized, hyper-oxygenated fluorocarbon gel. You don't breathe air on the way down. You breathe liquid. It fills your lungs, it fills your sinuses, completely suspending your body in a shock-absorbing fluid cocoon. It is the only way to stop your own ribcage from collapsing and crushing your heart under the staggering force of deceleration. As the pod violently slams into the upper atmosphere, the outside temperature spikes to over 5,000 degrees. The ablative heat shield begins to vaporize, shedding microscopic layers of carbon to keep you from boiling alive inside your suit. Through the thick liquid filling your helmet, you can hear the deafening, ungodly roar of the Jovian atmosphere. It sounds like 1,000 freight trains tearing through a steel tunnel. But as the pod burns through the outer stratosphere, a much more terrifying reality sets in. You are dropping into the most violent weather system in the known universe. Jupiter is a planet defined by storms that are larger than entire continents. As you punch through the swirling bands of ammonia clouds, the sky outside your pod is completely illuminated by flashes of lightning that are thousands of times more powerful than anything ever recorded on Earth. A single strike could completely fry your pod's avionics, turning your titanium egg into a dead sinking coffin. You are totally at the mercy of the automated targeting computers. You can't see. You can't move. You are paralyzed in a gel-filled sphere, dropping into the dark. Which brings up the single most important, glaring question of this entire suicidal operation. If Jupiter is a gas giant, if there is absolutely no ground to stand on, where exactly are you dropping? What possible reason could the military have for sending heavy infantry into an endless abyss of crushing pressure? You are dropping because humanity found something deep in the storm, suspended hundreds of miles down into the crushing atmosphere, floating on massive buoyancy bladders in a layer where the gas is so incredibly dense it almost acts like a liquid, are colossal aerostat platforms. Massive, sprawling industrial floating cities designed to harvest rare atmospheric isotopes. And those platforms have been taken. The enemy didn't bring ships to orbital space. They hit the extraction facilities from the inside, heavily fortifying the narrow metallic corridors and waiting out the storm. Orbital bombardment is completely useless here. Lasers diffuse in the thick atmosphere, and kinetic missiles are ripped apart by the sheer wind shear before they ever reach the target. The only way to take back a floating fortress deep inside Jupiter is with boots on the deck. It has to be close quarters. It has to be brutal. Suddenly, the violent shaking of your pod completely stops. The roar of the atmosphere turns into a low, terrifying hum. The retro thrusters fire, dumping immense amounts of thrust to match the drift speed of the massive floating platform. The liquid gel violently drains from your suit, forcing you to gasp painfully for actual air as the combat stimulants flood your bloodstream. Your helmet visor powers up. You hear the heavy, metallic clank as the magnetic locking clamps of your pod violently latch onto the outer hull of the aerostat facility. The explosive bolts on the pod door blow outward, ripping the titanium hatch away into the howling ammonia-scented storm. You step out onto the metal grating, and immediately, the crushing reality of Jupiter's 2.5G hits you like a physical wall. The exoskeleton woven into your combat suit whines loudly, the heavy servos grinding as they struggle to keep you upright. Every single step requires a calculated, agonizing effort. Lifting your rifle feels like deadlifting an anvil. If you trip, if you fall, the gravity will slam you into the deck plates with enough force to shatter your visor. You are standing on a metal rig surrounded by an endless ocean of swirling, lethal gas. If you get blown off the edge of this platform, there is no rescue. You will just fall. You will fall for days, descending deeper and deeper into the dark until the atmospheric pressure simply crushes your armor into a tiny compacted ball of metal. The comms channel in your ear cracks with static as the rest of your squad kicks open their drop pods along the outer hull. The massive reinforced steel doors of the facility's airlock are right in front of you. You didn't just survive the deadliest atmospheric drop in human history. You survived the commute. The real nightmare hasn't even started yet. The enemy is waiting inside, and in 2.5G, even pulling the trigger is going to take everything you have. You rack the bolt of your rifle, step into the airlock, and the heavy metal doors seal shut behind you, locking you in the dark.